Hey, this is Don from Padlock Technologies again, back with another video. If you saw my recent posts or some of the posts that I put on our socials, you know that I was playing around with Juniper again, and I was going to talk to you about doing BGP on Juniper. Now, if you're a Juniper expert, this video is not for you, right? But if you're someone that's a Cisco person and you're kind of interested and you want to see how it's done on Juniper, I'm going to give you a overview, like a brief overview on how to configure BGP on Junipers. Like I said, I am not a Juniper expert yet. He is yet. When I take some time off, I might go get the whatever expert certification in Juniper when I have time to actually go do that. But for now, I'm going to show you how to just get it up and running in Juniper, because you may have to do this live on a Juniper device, especially if you're on the consultant side of things. You're going to get into an environment and it's maybe multi-vendor and you have to learn how to work around that. Or you're just interested in learning how to do something that you know how to do in Cisco. You just want to see how it's done in Juniper. So this video is going to be for you. Now, I'm going to ask you a favor before we get in the lab. If you like learning like this, I have plenty of videos on here where you can learn a lot. Please do me a favor. Don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. A lot of people, I've been looking at my analytics. I got a lot of people that watch my videos, but they don't subscribe. So help me out and subscribe to the channel if you like stuff like this and you got value from it. Now, if you want to go further and you really want to help me, support the channel by becoming a member. When you do that, that helps me get gear to do these tutorials, right? So if you want to see more stuff, I need to go get the gear. Now, I buy the gear myself as well, but hey, if you're supporting this channel, help me get the gear. If not, just subscribe. Either way, I'm grateful for it, and I thank you for everything you do. Now, let's get into the lab. I'm going to show you real quick how to do this, and hopefully you enjoy it. All right, so here's two routers. Now, a lot of people say, why did I do this with two routers? Because you can actually learn a lot of advanced techniques on 2 to 3 routers, right? I think Narvik does like all this cool stuff. Shout out to Narvik as well. If you know, you know. He does a lot. He does a lot of cool stuff with like 3 routers, right? 2 routers, 3 routers, because you don't need to have a super mega lab to learn how to do advanced techniques. I know I show you these big labs, but that's more just simulating, stuff out in the real world. But if I wanted to learn like super advanced techniques, I always start out with, can I do this with like 2 or 3 routers? If I can do it with 2 or 3 routers, then it's just adding more routers, right? The configurations vary based on the router, but they're all pretty much the same. So what this lab is basically going to do, there's no IGP running in between here. It's just direct connectivity. We're going to have BGP running over the top, basically, and then we're going to be advertising these loopbacks out. Now, advertising the loopbacks or putting these networks in the BGP works a little differently on Juniper than my Cisco heads that are used to network commands or redistribution. Mainly the network command. It's a little different than using the network command. And you may like it this way, but if you have done anything on IOSR, this is going to look very familiar. So let's get in here and let's actually look at what we're going to do. Now I'm going to show you it on one router because the other side is pretty much the same. So let's log in here. Oops, that's the wrong username. Let's log in here. Now, when we get here, this is like user exec mode on, Cisco. So to jump into like, privilege exec mode, we got to go see a lot, right? So now that you got the character, that's going to give you privilege exec modes where you can run your show command and stuff like that. Now, what's funny is on a Cisco router, this is user exec mode. So again, it's a little bit different from what you're looking at if you're coming from the Cisco world. So I'm going to show you from protocol perspective, we're going to show you the route option. So this is how you do your router ID in Juniper. So you go to router show route. I hate when I actually end up doing this. So it show configurations, routing options. So this is what it looks like behind the scenes. I just did this routing option here to say this is the router ID. Again, You could possibly change this on Juniper. I'm not going to get into that. Well, you should be able to change it on Juniper. I'm not going to get into that because this is just basic BGP for app. Now, what does it look like from a configuration standpoint? So we're going to show configurations here, protocol, BGP. And like I said before, a lot of this is, if you're used to programming language, like this would be in Python, this would be like a dictionary, technically. This would be a dictionary. So if you're used to that, like how you do things in Python, you're gonna love Juniper. Just flat out, right? You're gonna love Juniper because it's something you're used to seeing, right? Now IOXXR does the same thing. So if you're, either you can go either way. I would suggest you learn both, but you can go either way. Learn one, learn the concepts, and then it's easy to actually just all you have to do is learn the syntax at that point, right? Learn the theory, learn the protocols, learn all that. And then now you're just changing syntaxes. Now code switching between the two, sometimes you forget some things, but it is what it is. Once you get, muscle memory again, you'll remember it. So what does this look like? So this is the local AS. Now, what does this look like from a one-liner command line thing? It is, let's go into config mode. So then you will go set protocols, BGP, local, if I can type, local AS, and then whatever the number is, right? And then behind the scenes, it does list, right? So this group is basically, I would say like a template. In my opinion, that's what I would liken it to, or liken it to on the Cisco side, like a template. The only difference is you don't do the inherit template or the inherit peer session, whatever, like on Cisco, like you see me do a bunch of times. So basically what this basically says is I did a group called eBGP. I said the type was an external, so it's eBGP. It is for this is IPv4 unicast. So if you turned off automatic IPv4 unicast on Cisco, you would have your address family IPv4 unicast. That's basically what this is. So INET is IPv4. I think INET 6 is IPv6. Then I'm going to get back to this in a minute. Then I said with the peer AS is that. So this would be, your neighbor, whatever the neighbor is, remote AS, this Cisco world. And then here's your neighbor statement. So this combined with all of this is basically saying this neighbor is in this group. Right? Now, I would say for me, I liken this to a template, but somebody might liken this to a peer group in BGP. Right? For Cisco, right? You create this peer group and then you assign these neighbors to that peer group. So thinking it like that. And then we have the authentication key. This is like the neighbor, whatever, password, whatever the password is. Remember, this is TCP/19 on the back end for BGP. And it's MD5. So what does all of this look like in a one-liner? So I'm going to show you what some of it look like in a one-liner. So if you go set protocol, BGP, group, eBGP, type, external, family, INET, unicast. Let's see what else we got here. Peer AS. You might not be able to go as far. Yeah. So I have to enter there, right? And then I would have to go back and then go peer AS, whatever. And then might be able to do an export command. Oh, let me see if I can do the export command. Peer AS 5002 export. So export, and then I have to pick the, policy option here. And then I would do the neighbor statement. So after that, let's say we just do BGP export, and then hopefully I can do neighbor. Then we put the neighbor in here, which on this one is 10.1, and then authentication key, and then put the MD5 authentication key. So once you do all of that, so it was only 2 lines that I had to do to configure this. But behind the scenes, it looks like this behind the scenes. You actually show the configuration. 2 lines did all of that. So now, and I know Cisco has it in iOS XR, but I think Catalyst should just do this all the way through. Like, I think Cisco needs to change their, and I know it's probably a huge overhaul, but I would love for Cisco to do what they did with iOS XR, the one-liner code. I would love for them to do that on switches, all the models, iOS XE, all of that. Just give me one-liners all day. Now, most of the time, you're probably going to use some automation, so you don't really care. But let's say if you're still a CLI ninja, like I love to be, um, I would love it for all of it, all my configurations to be one line. Now, the next thing I wanted to bring up is, and I didn't talk about, was this export command, export BGP. So I want you to think of this like a prefix list in Cisco, right? So let's look at show configuration policy options. So in the Cisco world, they have prefix lists, route maps, and all that. But I specifically want to focus on prefix lists because this is kind of like how it works with a prefix list. And this is where I said if you're used to RPL, which is route policy or routing policy language on this iOS XR, if you're used to that, then you're definitely going to be used to this. All right, because what this basically says is here's the policy statement. I called it BGP export. I gave it a term, so I said loopback. So just to say what I'm actually, you know, exporting. And from a prefix list standpoint, this is the IP prefix list name, right? And then if you want to do sequence number and then permit whatever. So this is, think of this as like IP prefix list, BGP export, and then we're going to put another term in here for loopback just to identify what I'm actually going to do. This loopback could be, this term could be anything, but it just differentiates the next term. So I'm going to say from route filter, this IP address exact. So I'm saying routes in the route table have to match this exactly. All right. If it does, we're going to accept, meaning we're going to export. And then I have another term. Think of this as just a deny statement, but I just called it reject everything else. It says reject. Basically, if it doesn't fall into this, just reject it because I'm not going to export that out. And then protocol BGP again. So now I said I'm going to export whatever's in that policy option, right? Whatever's in this policy statement is going to get exported. So basically, what this would look like in a one-liner would be set policy options, policy statement, BGP export, term, loopback from route filter, whatever, right? Then what was that? Exact, sorry. Put that in there. Exact, and then that'd be the one-liner there. And then I would have to do the same one-liner again, remove all that stuff out, and then go then accept. So it'll be the same thing, then accept. So it'll be this, and then we go from here, then accept, and then enter. And then you do another policy statement for BGP export with a different term, and then reject. All right, and then once you do that, what happens on the other side, I'm going to show you from a routing standpoint. We're going to log in here. And then I'm going to show route protocol BGP. As you can see, give me some details here. As you can see, that route was exported. So I'm actually sending that route from router 1 to router 2. Here's my next hop technically, which is right here. Tells me the interface as well, which I think is pretty cool. Here's the peer AS, right? Here's the AS path, and it was accepted. All right, so now we ping here for source. You get so used to ping equaling 4 pings in Cisco that you forget in other devices you actually got to specify the count. And that's it. So we got reachability from router two's loopback to router one's loopback using BGP, and you saw all the configurations a little bit by a little bit, and that's basic BGP. There's no redistribution. There's none of that, right? So let's get out the lab, and then we'll review what you just saw. All right, so that's basic BGP on Juniper. Again, don't get confused or try to rush it and try to get to this super advanced MPLS importing out of route table, right? INET 0 route table. Forget all of that, right? Learn how to configure it with just 2 routers and get basic reachability and then stack on top of that, right? That's why, trying to jump straight to like a CCIE or, I think it's JCINE, I believe on the Juniper side. Don't kill me, Juniper people. Um, Jumping straight to that is you're going to end up getting frustrated because they're going to be talking about topics over there that you haven't even learned the basics yet, right? So you need to learn the basics, the GCINA or the Cisco CCNA, and get to your CCNP, etc. Learn how to do all that because, if I decide to go for the Juniper Expert certification, if I just try to jump out the window and just go face first into that, I'm gonna land flat on my face because I got 2 CCIEs on Cisco doesn't mean that I'm gonna just instantly be able to learn the syntax of Juniper like that. Now it's gonna help me because I've already known the concept. So it's really only just how do I configure it? It's no longer how does BGP work? Like I don't have to worry about that. So again, learn one and then learn the other one. Don't try to learn them at the same time. Then you end up confusing yourself and then you're mad. But again, hopefully you got value from this video, right? Because this is, for my starter engineers, man, this is the pivotal piece. You're either going to go the Cisco way, you're going to go the Juniper way. But usually you end up coming back after you'll go this way to Cisco or you'll go this way to Juniper. And then you'll end up coming back and having to learn the other one. So don't think you're going to get away from it, right? Because there are always multi-vendor environments. It's just like programming. I became a network engineer because I didn't want to be a software engineer. And now that, network automation is here, guess what I'm back to doing? Python, but, just for network engineering. So it's still cool. But that's it. This is Don from Padlock Technologies again. If you haven't done it already, please don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. And again, if you want to support this channel even more, consider becoming a member. Help me get the gear to put out more tutorials like this. Don again, thank you, and have a nice day.